Hi there, my name's Errol Lawson, and I want to thank you for taking the time to stop by and watch footage from our Amplify Business and Entrepreneurship event. Our next speaker is Daniel Priestley. He's the co-founder and director of Intrivo Events and the author of two fantastic books, How to Become a Key Person of Influence and The Entrepreneur Revolution. Be inspired as you listen to Daniel Priestley.
Good evening. How is everyone? You good? I'm just going to move my little candles over here. I haven't been to the gym in a long time, and yesterday I went to the gym and I did some legs, and now I'm walking around like a little old man, so I feel so silly just even walking. So I might sit for some of it, if that's all right. Can everyone see me and hear me okay? So my name's Daniel. My background is an entrepreneur. I started my first company when I was 21, and I had the right mentor, and I was in the right place, right time, right economy, lots of things going for me in that way. And from 21 to 22, we actually built $1 million business. So I started with a credit card, and it had a $7,000 limit. And we got out there and we started running businesses, doing some business, and it actually built into $1 million business. By about 23, 24, we were doing millions of dollars, and by about 25, we built a $10 million business that was all over Australia. You can hear from my accent that I'm not from around here. I can do a Birmingham accent. But I won't. Birmingham? Errol Lawson helping young people? Yeah, anyway, there we go. So, my background is as an entrepreneur, and I came to the UK when I was about 26. I moved to London, started another business here, and built it into a multi-million-pound business, and actually grew it right through the recession. I've had a couple of business exits, which means you sell your business. And now what I do is I run an entrepreneur growth accelerator. So over the last 2-3 years, I've interviewed about 2,000 entrepreneurs, and we've worked with people who have built businesses that are worth billions of dollars. Some of the people I work closely with on a weekly basis have built businesses that are hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. So the other night, I spent 45 minutes just having a chat with one of our guys in the USA, and his business has sold $5 billion worth of products. And his personal fortune is $400 million US. So, you know, lots of these really interesting entrepreneurs and some celebrities and those sorts of people that I've worked closely with over the years. I wrote a couple of books, and the books, one is called Key Person of Influence, and one is called The Entrepreneur Revolution. And I guess there's some key ideas in those books that I'll share with you tonight. So you don't have to read those books. I'll give you all the best bits. Which save you a couple of pounds. If you like them, there might be some hidden gems inside there. So my company's called Intrivo. We've got offices in the UK, in the US, in Australia, and in Singapore. So let's start by talking about the times that we're living in. I don't know, a lot of people in this room are quite young, and some of us have, some of us are in our 30s and 40s, and some even older. And I think a lot of the people I speak to who have been in business for 10, 20, 30 years, they say that a lot of change has happened in the last 5 years, 6 years. And they talk about this huge transformational change that's happening on the planet. I personally know I started it in 2002. That was my first company. And I know I've seen a massive shift just from 2002 to 2013. When I first started my business, it was all about advertising. You just put ads in the newspaper, take out the advertising, and as soon as you put an ad in the newspaper, people would phone the number and they'd ring in and they'd leave a message, and then you'd call them back and organize a sales meeting, and then you'd make lots of money. That's actually how I started, and I turned $7,000 into $1.3 million in 12 months just by adding lots and lots of advertising. But in about 2006, 2007, that completely stopped working. It doesn't work at all today. And there's been this real radical shift on the planet. And the last time there was a radical shift, a really, really big shift, it actually happened here. It happened in the Midlands. It happened in Birmingham. Pardon? That's my best go at it. It was something called the Industrial Revolution. So right here in the Midlands, believe it or not, in the mid-1700s, early 1800s, what you would have found here is this was the technological center of the world. This was the most advanced center in the whole world. So in the same way that we think of Silicon Valley in San Francisco, that's how the rest of the world felt about Birmingham. They felt that the Midlands of the UK was the world leader in technology. And the technology that they were creating was steam engines, and they were creating different combustion engines, and they were creating coal-powered engines. They were creating machines like industrial sewing machines, and that was all coming out of this area. So there's this huge boom in productivity and transformation here. To give you an insight about it, before the Industrial Revolution, going back into the agricultural age, 80 to 90% of all people worked in farms. So they were on the land, they were farming. And life expectancy was very, very low. Sort of 35 to 45 was normal life expectancy, 50, 55 was getting on. And then the Industrial Revolution happened, and after the Industrial Revolution, today, less than 1% of people work in farming, right? So it was this huge shift. Machines took over all of those jobs. So 80% of people were working in farms, 80, 90%, and then the factories came along. And what happened was, during that time, all the people who used to work in farms had to retrain and change their life and go and work in factories. And all these new factories took over. And that was a very fast, massive shift, and it changed the whole world. It's the biggest shift that's ever happened in the world. It changed the way we have life expectancy. As a result of the Industrial Revolution, we have cities, we have technology. Almost everything that you're experiencing this moment is a result of the Industrial Revolution. Your clothing is made in Industrial Revolution style. This building is built based on a corporate model of Industrial Revolution style. The chairs that you're sitting on, the projectors, everything. The fact that we live in a city like this is all as a result of the Industrial Revolution. So it's a huge transformation. Now, my belief is that we're actually going through a transformation that's as big as the Industrial Revolution. And the reason I think that is because of technology. We're actually having this massive shift in technology again. And the huge shift that we're seeing is actually because of these sorts of companies. So all of these sorts of companies have come along. So basically what has happened, let me share with you a little bit about the Industrial Revolution, and then we'll talk about today. So what's happened is you get, in the Industrial Revolution, you have people who own factories and they make all the profit and they keep all the money. And you have people who work in factories and they do all the work, but they get paid just a small amount of money. And that's the factory model, because the one person owns the factory, they own the rights of production, and the other person can't possibly buy a factory because they're just a normal person. So they have to work in someone else's factory, and because they can't own the whole factory, they can't make the profit. So the very clever thing that they did in the Industrial Revolution is called separation of labor and separation of means of production. So if I was the factory owner, I would separate all the jobs out amongst this whole room, and everyone would just do one meaningless little task, one tiny little thing. So if we were making these things, your job would just be to put that button on, and your job would be to put that button on, your job would be to put that thing in there, and your job would be to put the batteries in. But none of you really do anything that's important, and all of you are totally replaceable, which means I get to keep all the profit from selling this thing. So in the Industrial Revolution, if you wanted a factory, you needed a lot of money to set one up. You need a lot of people, hundreds of people. Does that make sense? Yeah? So here's what changed. What changed is that all of this technology came along, and suddenly you needed less and less people. And suddenly it cost less and less money to start a factory. So what's happened today is that someone who's got almost no money, maybe they've got a few £100 or a few £1,000, they can go out and use this technology to own their own mini factory. They can put an advertisement on YouTube and they record it using their mobile phone and they upload it for free. They can take payments from people all over the world using PayPal. They can source products from Alibaba. They can talk to their suppliers using Skype. They can share digital files on Dropbox. They can find access to information on Google. They can ship products around the world using Amazon and FedEx and eBay. They can find people to work for them using Elance. So we look at these brands here, and just in 5 or 6 years, they've become normal brands. We don't think of them as exciting or special. We don't think of them as magical or transformational. We just think of them as normal brands. It's normal to just be able to Google something, and it's normal to just be able to sell something on eBay. But actually what has happened is it's transformational. It really has transformed the way human beings can interact with each other and interact with the world. It means for the first time ever, someone who wants to start a business because they've got an idea can. And that's a really rare thing. If you've never felt truly grateful before, or you haven't felt very grateful this week, just the fact that you're born in these times is cause for you to feel incredibly grateful. If you were born in almost any other time in history, if you were not born in a wealthy family, you had no hope of becoming wealthy. If you had a business idea 100 years ago, you had no hope of ever having anything to do with it. You wouldn't have even been able to get started 100 years ago. You wouldn't have even, if you had gone to anyone and said, I've got this business idea, they'd say, get back to work. Like, go get a job in a factory, right? So you live in this extraordinary time, really, really extraordinary time. The factory got smaller and smaller, and it now fits in your pocket. So it's really strange. This is my factory, right? And it's so weird. I have about 30 people on my team working around the world. And we're in Australia, the UK, USA, and Singapore. And most of my work happens on that. I was saying to Errol yesterday I'm at the gym and, kind of doing a bit of a workout and making a couple of calls and sending a few emails, go for a quick sauna, come back out, do some things. And I'm kind of working, I'm kind of hanging out at a day spa. And that's kind of my factory, right? Isn't it a weird time that we live in? So what does it mean? What does it mean for the future? Who's excited by it? Yeah? Who's nervous by it? Yeah. It's funny how nervous and excited can feel the same. So it's not all good. Some of it's bad. I said that I'm a bit of a demotivational speaker sometimes. So some of it's demotivational as well as motivational. So there's something called the free economy. The free economy means that human beings now expect to get a lot of value for free. They don't want to pay for what they used to pay for. Things that I used to sell 10 years ago with my business, people wouldn't really pay that much for them today. Anything that's information-based, people don't want to pay for any information because they can get all the information they want for free on Google and YouTube. So the world's changed in that way. I used to sell information-based products 10 years ago, and now information products are dead. They don't make any profit anymore because the world wants lots of free things. So it's a new challenge that we all have to be able to give so freely and also think about how to create an income. That's a challenge. People want to shop around a lot more. So Google talks about this thing called 0 moments of truth. And it's about people shopping around 11 times before they buy anything. So it means that they're not just shopping around locally, they're shopping around all over the world to see if they can find something that they want to buy as opposed to what you've got to sell. So that's also a challenge, and it's difficult to do that one. There's something called technology unemployment that's happening. And it's really frustrating for me because I see technology unemployment everywhere, but no one's really talking about it. No one in government is really talking about the importance of technology unemployment. So when I was in school, the cool kids used to work at CD shops. There are no CD shops anymore. And the geeky kids used to work in bookshops, and there are no bookshops anymore. And everyone else used to work at the checkout, doing the groceries, and now people do their own self-checkout. And I worked at McDonald's, and I even went into a McDonald's in Victoria in Melbourne recently, and I ordered on a screen. And they order on the screen, and then someone just comes over and slides the food to you. And about 1/3 of the amount of people work in that McDonald's than would have worked in my McDonald's. So it's a strange world. This technology is creating opportunities for some people. It's creating no opportunities, or it's taking away opportunities for other people. So it's really important to know that there's a bit of two sides to this. Some big changes that are happening. Small business is the new big business. Little teams can do so much now. So when you do have that success, when you do find something the market wants. What's wonderful is that with a small team of maybe 5 to 15 people, you can have a global business. You know, my business, we were global when I think we had our 7th person was our international person, and we were a global business by about 7, 8, 9 people. So small is the new big. Big companies are really worried about how all these small businesses are going to come and take all their business. Careers are dead. So it used to be my grandfather. He had one job. He got an apprenticeship when he was 17, and then he worked all the way through the factory, and he became a foreman, and then he became a junior manager, a senior manager, and eventually he became the general manager of a factory. And he worked for one company for 40 years, and that was his whole career. And all he had to do if he wanted to be successful was just not leave. That was the big trick to thing. And now we have to think about more complicated things like building a personal brand. We have to think about how are we going to build a brand, how are we going to align ourselves to the right products, how are we going to let go of something when it's not working for us and realign ourselves to something new that we do want to work for us. So the personal brand is a huge opportunity. Your personal brand is something that's going to last you your lifetime. The one thing that you'll take with you is this personal brand. So before social media, every action you took was written in pencil, right? And it would slowly fade and be erased. And today, because of social media, almost every action you take is written in ink, and you'll almost never escape it. So if you do something really, really stupid, right, it's probably going to haunt you for the rest of your life. Right? If it winds up that it's the top thing that people find when they Google you. Right? It's not fair. It's really unfair. It's horrible for kids. It's really horrible because I did stupid stuff when I was at school. I did all sorts of stupid stuff. There are photos of me drunk with a pair of pants on my head. But they're the old kind of photos. So there's only one copy. It's locked away safe and sound, right? There's only one copy of that. Now, if I had have been just born in a little bit different time, that photo would be a digital photo, and it would be everywhere that I go, and every employer who goes and Googles me would find me drunk with a pair of pants on my head, right? So, we got to pay attention to personal brand. We need to start teaching that in schools. We need to teach young people about their personal brand. This is talked about a lot these days, and you would have seen this on the news all the time. And this is something called income distribution. So income distribution has shifted a lot in just 30 years. In 30 years, the rich have gotten twice as rich, and the poor have almost not increased their incomes or their wealth at all, which means 30 years has gone by and there's not been a lot of growth for people here, which means that effectively they're poorer because of inflation, and the rich have gotten really, really rich. Mind you, that when I say the rich, it's not the same people. It's a new group of people who keep coming up. Mark Zuckerberg wasn't even born 30 years ago. But 0.1% of people in the UK have 8% of all the money. And 1% have 20%, right? And 10% have 80%. It used to be 20% had 80%. Right? Now it's 10% have 80%. Now here's, a lot of people think, oh, damn those rich. They're so greedy and horrible and all that sort of stuff. And it's a tricky one because I'm in that category. I'm on the spike here. I earn lots and lots of money. And I don't feel greedy or strange. I actually feel like my business helps a lot of people and does a lot of good for a lot of people, and that we employ people and that we train people and that we do a lot of these sorts of things. The way I kind of look at this is I look at it as this is a group of people who are embracing the times that we're in and building a business based on the times that we're in. And this is a group of people who really want things to go back the way they were, right? And there's a lot of people who say, I wish we could go back to having a factory labourer, and I wish we could go back to having a career, and I wish we could go back to, having things very simple. So I see a lot of people who say, I wish things weren't changing so fast, and I wish things would go back the way they were. And I know a lot of people who are very, very, very rich And the one thing that's different is they get excited about the future and how much everything's changing and how many opportunities there are. And I know people who are struggling and they get pissed off. They get upset about how much things are changing and they wish it would go back the way it was. So when you see these statistics, just know that it's not the same people. It's a rotating group of people. There are actually lots of people who were very rich 10 years ago who have lost all their money because they were trying to do it the same way that they were doing it 10 years ago, right? So you can be in there if you want. One of my dreams or one of my visions is to teach lots more people here about what is happening here and how to be here, because I think it's actually just a skill set. There's just some basic skills. I know I'm not that much smarter than most people. I went to a very normal school. I grew up in a town with 24% unemployment. I didn't score incredibly well at school. I kind of got B's and C's and I got 1A. You know, I'm not really amazing at chess or anything like that. I'm just kind of a normal person, but I focus on a few things that I know work up here. So I'm going to share with you some of those things. So there's 5 things I want to share with you tonight. And these are the 5 things that really matter on how you can really build the right business. So let's go through them. The first one is called pitching skills. Great entrepreneurs have great skills when it comes to pitching. So pitching is all about sharing a business idea or sharing an idea. It's about sharing an idea in a way that you want to influence someone else. Right? So you're sharing words, you're having a conversation with an intention that you want to influence them to do something different. You want to get them to buy something, you want to get them to join your team, you want to get them to invest in your idea, right? But you're sharing that conversation with the intention to have them do something. My favorite pitch in history is this one, where he talks about his dream, right? And he stands up there and he just delivers this 17 minutes of just raw power and passion. And he takes people who, you know, felt one way, and in 17 minutes he makes them feel a completely different way, right? So when we think about entrepreneurs, one of the great skills is they speak things into existence. They have the power to pitch something again and again and again until it becomes real. If you ever get the chance, go onto YouTube and start watching some videos of Steve Jobs standing in front of his audiences at Macworld pitching a new piece of technology, where he stands there and you've never even heard of an iPhone, and 7 minutes later you have to have one, right? So he's the master of the great pitch. Let me share with you an example. One of the first people I helped with their pitch years ago was a friend of mine called Lazo, and he would say to people, if you ask him, what do you do? He would say, I'm a fitness trainer, I can help anyone lose weight, put on muscle, and I charge £45 an hour. That's how he would say it. So I said to Lazo, you need to change your pitch. And he said, well, can you help me? And I said, sure. When people ask you what you do, say this. I'm an award-winning bodybuilder. I do radical 12-week body transformations with men who do powerful things in a boardroom but boring things in the bedroom. A 12-week transformation costs 10 grand. Now he said, I can't say that. I said, say it. He goes, but I'll lose customers. I said, just say it, trust me. Right? The following year, he made 24 sales at the 10 grand price. Now the year beforehand, he'd made £50,000. The year later, he made £250,000. And the only thing that changed was his pitch. The only other thing that changed is that he worked about a third less. So he was working less and earning 5 times more because he picked the right pitch. Right? That's a more powerful pitch than what he was pitching. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Now, here's a little rule. You get what you pitch for and you're always pitching. You get what you pitch for and you're always pitching. Now, I'll give you an insight that a lot of people pitch unempowering pitches. They pitch things like, there's no money out there. Now, if you go up to someone and say, oh, doesn't it suck how there's no money out there? There's no money, there's no money, there's no money, there's no money. What do you think that person thinks of you as a business owner? They think they mustn't be very good. Right? So they were about to spend some money and they're, oh. Right? Or they must think that you don't charge. Right? They must think no one else is going to be your customer. I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. What happens when someone thinks, maybe I could go and work at this company, and they go and talk to the boss, and the boss says, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. Does anyone want to work at that company? No. So the very people who could have helped make the business work without the boss, he pitched them away. I'm so stressed out, I'm so stressed out, I'm so stressed out. Has anyone ever pitched themselves into being stressed? Where you start talking about how stressed you are, and then suddenly you're all stressed? Right? There's no opportunities, there's no opportunities, there's no opportunities, and no opportunities. Right? No opportunities for young people, there's no opportunities for tall people, there's no opportunities for Australians. Right? You talk about it and talk about it and talk about it until it becomes real. Right? So the rule is you get what you pitch for, and you're always pitching. So be careful what you pitch. My belief is that anything you're willing to pitch powerfully 1,000 times, you'll make it happen. Now here's a crazy one, right? So one of the guys I really look up to is a guy called Elon Musk. Elon Musk is this incredible entrepreneur who started PayPal and then went on to create something called SpaceX, which is the first company that NASA outsources rocket ships to, and he actually has a private rocket ship company sending rockets up and down to the space station. And then he started Tesla Motors, which is the world's first electric sports cars. And then he started Solar City, which is the USA's largest solar grid. And he's 42 years old, and he's worth $9 billion, and he pays himself an annual salary of $78 million per year. Right? So he's a pretty wild guy. He's really chilled out, really humble, very down-to-earth, lovely guy. But he's this a great example of you get what you pitch for, and you're always pitching. Because when he sold PayPal, they said, what are you going to do next? And he goes, I want to take people to Mars. And they're like, you want to do what? He goes, I want to take people to Mars. I want to be one of the first people to go to Mars. I want to get involved in rocket ships, and I want to go to Mars. And they're like, what are you talking about? You did a website that collects payments, right? Now, he very cool, very calm, started pitching, I'm going to take people to Mars, and I'm going to build rocket ships, and I'm going to get rocket ships into outer space. And one by one, he attracted all the top rocket scientists in the world to come and work for him, and he built the world's most advanced rocket ships, and he sends $1.6 billion worth of rocket ships up and down between the space station this year, and there's not a single person out there now who doesn't believe that one day he'll go to Mars. Right? It's obvious that he's actually pitching that into reality. Right? So you take any idea and you pitch it enough times, you pitch it 1,000 good pitches, and you watch what happens. You can pitch anything into existence. It's incredible. Number 2 is publish. So great entrepreneurs are great at publishing content. So that means that they write blogs, they write articles, they write tweets, they write updates, but they publish their ideas. They take their ideas, they type them up, and they share them. The reason you do that is when you only think about an idea or talk about an idea, the thought gets lost, and you never tend to build up and build up and build up. But when you write about ideas, you have to slow down, you have to really think it through, and you build up a solid library of great ideas that you've got. So great entrepreneurs, they write things down, they keep journals, they publish ideas, they put their ideas out there. The other thing about writing is it's a great way of sharing. A lot of people, they keep their ideas to themselves, and they're just so protective of their ideas, and they don't want to share their ideas with anyone else, which means no one else can get excited about that idea. Great entrepreneurs, they publish their ideas, release those ideas to the world in an act that enables others to come and be part of those ideas and share in those ideas. Where I'm from is Australia, and it was founded in the agricultural age, and the way you became wealthy in the agricultural age is through land, and the way that you show ownership of land is through a title deed. So you have to have this published piece of paper to show that you own that land. Well, in the digital age, the way you show ownership of what's valuable today is called niches. So the new land is called a niche. So when you want to show ownership of a niche, you have to publish a book or publish an article or publish a blog. It helps you to show ownership of that niche. So if you know what niche you want to own, the first thing is just write about it. So when I wrote a book about key person of influence, that was me owning that little piece of land. There's a little piece of land called Become a Key Person of Influence, and I own that land because I published a book. So if you wanted to go out and say, start talking about, you got to become a key person of influence, people would Google that, and then they'd go, hey, wait a second, I think you're trespassing on Daniel Priestley's land. He wrote the book about that in 2010. So that must be his land, and you must be copying him. You should get off of his land. Right? So you've got to write things so that you own that land. The next one is products. So entrepreneurs make their money through products. At the heart of every financially successful business is great products, really great products that help people. You've got to choose the right products that you're going to get involved in. And you'll need several types of products. A business is actually not just one product. A lot of people think that a business is a product, or a business revolves around a product. You actually need 4 products in order for you to make really great money. You need something that's free, something that's cheap, something that's expensive, and something that's only for your clients. Right? So there are 4 types of products. And in your head, you've got intellectual property. You unpack that intellectual property, and out comes the products. Let me share with you what happened for me. Early 2010, I wrote a blog, and it was called How to Become a Key Person of Influence in 4 steps. I hadn't thought up the 5th step at that time. And I noticed that a lot of people liked the blog, and people wrote to me, and people messaged me, and they said that that was very interesting to them. So I turned it into a book. And while I wrote the book, the 5th step came out, and I put the 5th step in the book, and it became the 5-step sequence to becoming highly valued and highly paid in your industry. And then I thought, well, I can turn that into an event. So we hired some amazing speakers who had built multi-million and multi-billion pound businesses, and we put on events. And lots of people turned up to the events. And we said, well, we can video that and stick that on YouTube and have a free product. So we put it on YouTube, and we built a YouTube channel. And we said we could do a digital product that is a test, and people could test themselves on the 5 skills. And then we could create an online training product where people could come online and take video training. And then we could use our methodology as an offline growth accelerator for entrepreneurs all over the world. And we said we want to be in 20 cities around the world. We want to take this growth accelerator. So we got to build this in a way that we could be in 20 cities. And so far we've opened up 5 of those cities. Each city does $1.5 million a year in revenue, in fees, and also takes equity shares in different businesses. So each city is very profitable from day one. And we're now opening, next year we'll be opening about 6 new cities just next year. So just from a silly little idea 3 years ago, isn't it funny? Just a silly little blog. But you unpack it into a product, unpack another product, unpack another product, unpack another product, and suddenly a silly little idea is worth millions and millions of dollars. The next skill is building profile. That's all about becoming well known, liked, and trusted in your industry. So my belief is you are who Google says you are. So if I Google you, basically 3 things could happen. 1, nothing much comes up, which means you're nobody. You're just one of the normal, regular lots of people. 2, some negative stuff could come up, which means I'm going to think of your personal brand as negative. 3, some really great stuff could come up, in which case I want to do business with you, I want to work with you. So it's your job to orchestrate it so that when people Google you, when people look for you, that great stuff is coming up. And we live in a world where this is actually really easy and really cheap. This guy here, he's going to speak at one of our events in Florida. He lives in Florida, in Tampa. He's a young guy. In his bedroom, he makes a daily video about the news, and he has 810 million viewers. And that's old. I think he's cracked over 1 billion views. Right? He earns over $1 million a year just through sponsorship from Sony PlayStation and different things like that, because he just sits online and makes these little videos about the news. His name's Sexy Phil. Here's another girl. Her name is Michelle Fan. She puts on her makeup every morning, and she just talks to you about what products she's using and how she's putting her makeup on. She has 580 million views. I think it's more than that. I think it's 700 million now. She earns more than $1 million a year from L'Oreal and other different brands who sponsor her channel. When she went to New York Fashion Week this year, they put her name above Naomi Campbell's because she's more influential than Naomi Campbell in the fashion and makeup world. And all she does is sit in her bedroom putting on her makeup every day. So we live in a world where you can build a big profile, pretty fast. The fifth one is partnerships. So partnerships is where you start working with others. It's where you stop trying to do everything on your own and you just focus on doing the one thing you're good at, and you get other people around you who can do things as well. I'm just going to skip through this. This was just some of our social media, but it's out of place. So we do lots of partnerships. In order to build my business, we've done lots and lots of partnerships. Pinsent Mason is a large law firm who's one of our partners and sponsors. Smith & Williamson is a large accounting firm who's one of our partners and sponsors. Alibaba.com is one of the largest, most valuable websites in the world. Elance, the Sherry Blair Foundation. Sherry Blair came and spoke at one of our events just recently. Institute of Leadership and Management. And around the world, we just have all these partnerships with banks, with magazines, with charities, with networking organizations, with media outlets. And we just basically, every area that we go into, we find ways to partner with people. And rather than me trying to be the big cheese in the organization and say, oh, it's all got to be me, we go out and we find incredible entrepreneurs to partner with. He's sold his last company for $24 million. He's on Forbes 400 list with 400 million net worth. She's made $2 billion worth of product sales for her products, right? So we have all these really amazing, incredible entrepreneurs. Dennis is the ghost author, the ghost writer for some of the USA's biggest celebrities, and he used to write songs for Boys to Men. So we've got all of these really great people who come along. Through our partnerships, we raise a lot of money. Every year now we raise over £100,000 for charity, just by working through our partners. So the trick is not to compete, but the trick is actually to collaborate and to partner with others. We've used this methodology, these 5 steps, on 900 different businesses in 50 different industries. And guess what happens? Every single time it works. When we get people focusing on great pitching, publishing content, choosing the right products, raising their profile, and doing partnerships, their business explodes. They get onto the right side of that curve. My message for you for the next 5 years is, until you're a key person of influence, your job is to focus on these 5 things to become a key person of influence. It's the key people of influence who are doing really, really well in business. It's those who are embracing the times that we're in, who are doing incredibly well. If you want to know more about those concepts, there's the book, The Key Person of Influence, which is outside, and we're doing a special partnership with Errol. You can get my book and Errol's book for £15, and 100% of that £15 goes to Errol's organisation to help train teenagers in schools about leadership skills. So 100% will go, I'll pay for the cost of the book, and all of your money goes to help Errol with his cause. So has that been an interesting discussion? Cool, thank you for listening.